see you.
Yes, sir. I'm standing behind you.
All right. Okay, is the press ready?
Yes, sir.
Press ready?
Ready when you are.
All right, well, good afternoon. I want to thank all of the folks that make up the Governor's Emergency Council, from Colonel Hodges to General Freelou to Colonel Clark, and then, of course, our new GOSEP Director, General Mahfouz, and Jay Grimes. You know, today we stand on the threshold of another hurricane season, as we both remember and we prepare. We remember that 20 years ago, Hurricanes Katrina and Andrew devastated our state. And those are two storms that will forever change the mindset of folks, not only from Louisiana, but from around the country as well. We honor those lives, and we both honor and remember those lives that we lost, and the families that were forever changed, the communities that came together to build a stronger, better Louisiana. Those storms tested Louisiana in unimaginable ways. Not only did those storms, but the four major hurricanes that followed those storms over the last 2 decades. In addition to the 100-year flood that we had, the 100-year snowstorm that we had, I think the lessons from Katrina and Rita and all of those natural disasters have taught us that preparation saves lives. And it showed us the strength that the folks from Louisiana have to be able to rebuild and to prepare for the next event that may come our way. Since that time, we have worked on improving our emergency response. We have worked on improving our infrastructure. We have worked on improving our resiliency in our electrical grid and in our communications. We all know that preparation starts with the individual. And so now is the time that we remind each citizen here in Louisiana, especially those along the coast, to make sure that you have an evacuation plan. Make sure that you secure important documents, and make sure that you check vital supply kits. Our emergency teams, not only here at GOSEP, but in each of our parishes are ready. We have continued to invest in technology that helps us to respond quicker, faster, and be more efficient. We have increased our coordination across local, state, and federal partners to ensure that our families have even further protection during natural disasters. We are working closely with the National Weather Service, FEMA, and our parish leaders. That's why last year we brought in a state climatologist who you will hear from in just a short few minutes. And we continue to work with our parish leaders to make sure that they have information in real time. But again, it's important that you take the responsibility of preparing you and your family in case a natural disaster strikes the area where you are. Make sure that you're checking on your neighbors. Make sure your neighbors are prepared. And especially if you live around elderly folks, we want you to make sure that they are prepared as well. Sign up for our emergency alerts at getagameplan.org. We also encourage you to download the app. We have many ways under which we can push information to our citizens here in Louisiana. And I got to tell you, I'm absolutely proud of GOSEP and the technology that we have available to our citizens. It is only good if you use that information, if you take advantage of the app, if you take advantage of the information that is on our site of getagameplan.org. So as we begin a new hurricane season, I want the people of Louisiana to know that we are ready. We are going to be consistently going over emergency preparedness operations here at GOSEP. After this briefing, the press is going to be able to go out and see all of the equipment and talk to the different cabinet level officials who are engaged during times of natural disasters. But remember that we should always know that the next Katrina, Rita, or Gustav Ike could be lurking, right? Or Laura. I mean, the list goes on. We know them. Could be lurking right around the corner. And so we want you again to be prepared. So sign up, get the app, getagameplan.org, and let's make sure that we get through this hurricane season together, prepared, and safe. I'll now turn it over to General Mahfouz, who will talk about his role as the director of GOSEP. And then after, we're going to hear from Jay Grimes, who's going to promise us that there will be no hurricanes this hurricane season.
Thanks,
At least that's what my hope is. But again, I do appreciate your time. General Mahfouz.
Governor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Governor Landry, thank you for that introduction and for your leadership. As the governor mentioned, planning for emergencies is a continuous cycle, and we don't take a break from it. We do stop on today to reflect on our plans and their validity, meet with our mission partners, and review the rehearsals, the exercises, and our plans in coordination with all of the emergency support functions that come together under GOSEP during a declared emergency. As the governor mentioned, now is the time to plan or validate your plan, rather. If you don't have a plan, the getagameplan.org website and the Get a Game Plan app are great tools for you, and whether you're an individual family or business or even some of our local communities. The checklists that are available on getagameplan.org to help you validate at an individual level that you're ready to evacuate, to shelter in place if that becomes necessary, to prepare for the power outages that may accompany sheltering in place, make plans and preparations for your pets, and make plans and preparations for our seniors and our minors who may live in harm's way. Those vulnerable populations that live in flood-prone areas are not immune to the devastations caused by even a minor storm. If we get a slow-moving storm that sits over an area for many days and we get a deluge of rain, those can be just as dangerous as a fast-moving storm with high-intensity winds. So again, your plan, if I were to encourage you to do anything, is to reflect on your plan, to validate at an individual level, and once and listen to your parish officials. Your parish officials have absolutely rehearsed their plans. They've done that in coordination with GOSEP. We understand where their gaps and their seams are and when they will require the assistance of the state. And we're prepared to step in and help our local communities at that time. We're working closely with FEMA and prepared for this current hurricane season. The logistics apparatus that kicks in from FEMA normally when state resources are overwhelmed has been validated and pledged to us. We have commodities not only here staged in the state, but regionally at our disposal should we need them. So in closing, I would just like to say that GOSEP as a state agency is prepared for this hurricane season. The plans that have been rehearsed and are in place have been refined and are ready on the days where the state will need us, and on the state on behalf of the citizens on their worst day. So as the governor said, and I'll reemphasize it, if you haven't already developed a plan, getagameplan.org or the Get a Game Plan app is a fantastic resource for you not only to receive alerts in real time, but also to develop your plan should you need help in developing one. So thank you. I'll be followed by Jay Grimes.
Governor, Generals. Well, thank you for the invitation, Governor, to speak here. Just a couple of things. First of all, most of you are aware the forecast for the upcoming season calls for normal to above normal activity. Those kinds of numbers, though, really don't tell the story here. And I'm not here to alarm you. This is about awareness. Let's look at Louisiana's recent history. In the last 5 years, the state has been hit by 8 named storms, That includes 5 hurricanes, 3 of which were major hurricanes. That's the last 5 years. If we look back over the last 8 years, 4 of those years were years where we had 2 or more strikes. Now, that doesn't mean that every neighborhood gets impacted, but it means that the entire state has to go on alert. And so that's why I want to reiterate what both the governor and the general have mentioned about personal responsibility. Your personal preparedness makes it better and makes it easier for these agencies that help the state respond and recover from these events. Your personal awareness gets us through that. So just keep in mind, Louisiana is indeed a hotspot for hurricane activity. And we are just as active as Florida. We just don't have the same length of coastline. So now is the time, in the fair weather conditions, to review your plans. Use your experience over the last 5 years to get yourself prepared for what is very likely going to be another active year in the Gulf of Mexico. Last year, there were 18 named storms. Almost half of them ended up in the Gulf. And each one of those, the state has to start a response activity. So make it easier for the state, make it easier for yourself, make it easier on your family. Get prepared now. Thank you, Governor.
And again, in closing, I want the citizens of Louisiana to know that as or should storms begin to approach our coast, or as activity heats up in the Gulf, we will continue to make sure that they are informed with the latest information as we get them. That's why we have Jay here. Again, though, it's easier for us to push that information to you if you sign up at getagameplan.org or if you download that app. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Ladies first.
good afternoon. General Muffles, you mentioned FEMA, but Governor, you would be aware, and General, you would be aware that at the federal level, the president wants to eliminate FEMA, rework it. Does the state have an idea what FEMA will look like as we move into the heart of hurricane season?
Look, I've spoken at length with Secretary Noem and those folks over at the White House. I will tell you that our Region 6 FEMA Director, Tony Robertson, is a very experienced FEMA official. And I do not believe that the president or the White House has any intention of revamping FEMA while hurricane season is in play. However, I do believe that should a state be impacted, or say a state like Louisiana be impacted by a major hurricane, that the ability to have some flexibility in the way that FEMA handles that response, you may see that. You may see action from the White House that creates more flexibilities with states. I think that all the president is trying to do is to make sure that the resources are available to the states, or that the state has the ability of actual mission control and the authority to be able to act quickly. What we have seen from the time of Katrina through now is that the bureaucracy inside the federal government has a tendency to tangle things up. So I am extremely confident that if we have, or if we are impacted by a major hurricane, that the communications that we have up at the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA and the White House and our congressional delegation will ensure that Louisianans will receive the resources they
A
need.
quick follow-up, is the state ready if it has to take on that added responsibility?
I don't know what added responsibility that would be, but again, I think it's important that the states have always maintained the first responsibility anyhow. And it was then a reimbursement from FEMA irrespective. So again, I feel very confident that we're ready for this hurricane season.
You got a question?
Mine's a corollary to that. The National Weather Service has had a series of cutbacks. I believe the number was 600 jobs lost since January 20th. You mentioned them also, and to follow up on the FEMA angle. How confident are you that Louisiana will get the support when there's a storm in the Gulf and help Louisiana be prepared?
Well, look, it's one of the reasons that we have a state climatologist. So if there's cuts being made at the Federal Weather Service or at NOAA, I'm completely confident in Mr. Grimes' ability to give us accurate information. I have not heard from anyone that those cuts are impacting the information that would flow up to the states or flow down to the states when storms are approaching or weather is affecting us. I think that we saw very clearly the advantage of having a state climatologist in the recent 100-year snow event that we had. I think that, hurricanes are things that we can see much further out. I thought that the state did an unbelievable job. I thought our citizens did an unbelievable job of listening and adhering to warnings in an event that was extremely hard to predict. I think that is a great bellwether to see how prepared we are to handle events when Mother Nature comes calling.
Is the state climatologist ready to take on that responsibility of forecasting when a storm's in the Gulf?
Well, I do it with the cooperation and through the guidance of the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center. And I feel confident that our tropical coverage this season will be more than adequate for what we require.
I wonder if any of the folks up there could talk just in general terms about that display of equipment, apparatus, technology in the parking lot and the upgrades that we've seen in the 20 years since Katrina that are on display out there today.
Yes, sir. I can do it from here.
Okay.
No, it would be better if you're in the mic, please.
Make them happy. First lesson again.
I appreciate the question, sir. So outside of our doors and in the parking lot adjacent to the building is a representation of all the emergency support function apparatus. And it's just a small illustration, physical illustration of capabilities that those agencies bring to bear during an emergency. It also gives us the opportunity to reflect on the interoperability advances that have been made since Katrina. The advent of the Elwyn system, the advent of drone technology, robotics, predictive analysis, and the mobile command centers that just didn't exist 20 years ago during Hurricane Katrina. So I don't know if that adequately addresses the questions you had, sir, if you were something specific.
In terms
out
of,
there.
a lot of lessons were learned during Katrina, obviously in the types of equipment that we had and the types of equipment that we didn't have, such as a fleet of high water vehicles, a fleet of boats, for example. So when you look at everything out there, what are some of the upgrades that you see in terms of the equipment that's out there?
I mean, to me, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned as governor was during Hurricane, I think it was Francine, right, that affected us last year. It's not so much the equipment that you see out in that parking lot, which is important if other systems fail, but it's the ability to predict or to understand when systems are failing. Last year, I think was the first time when this agency has interacted with the Sewage and Water Board in conjunction with the Corps of Engineers as Francine impacted New Orleans. Those are all things, those are lessons that we took. In fact, we're working through a common operating picture that will give us the ability to understand if rainfall affects this particular area of Louisiana. What are the drainage systems that are in place to be able to handle that type of rainfall? We're working with CIPRA as well to understand when storm surge impacts certain areas of the coast. What are we looking for from a resource standpoint? I think the ability to move those resources closer to the area that will be impacted without impacting that resource is vital to improving the timing that we can get resources to our citizens. So to me, that's the lesson. How can we do it in a manner that brings the resources to bear as quickly as possible and to bring our citizens the relief needed as quickly as possible? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, following up on the DOGE cuts in regards to the National Weather Service, I know hurricanes are a little bit more predictable because we can see them further out. However, recently we've had a lot of tornadoes in our nation that have come quick and fast from what people have said. Do we think those cuts at the National Weather Service will inhibit or able to get, the information out quickly to citizens?
I don't. I mean, those are questions I guess you'd better ask either the White House or that agency. Look, again, I feel very confident in the fact, again, it's one of the reasons that we have a climatologist here. Certainly if Jay believes something is being impacted at the federal level and he notifies me, the first thing I'm gonna do is pick up the phone and call the White House.
We have time for one final
Governor?
question.
Yes, sir.
Looking back at Katrina 20 years ago, kind of a two-part question here. A, is it correct to assume that the biggest culprit of all the damage in New Orleans was the failure of the levees? And if so, are the rebuilt levees, are they ready to withstand another powerful hurricane should one come this way this year?
Look, I think it's not only the levees. You got to remember, like we concentrate on the levees because the levees did fail. We know that the Corps of Engineers, with federal money, completely rebuilt the system and continue to strengthen that system as well. But we've got a number of pumps that help to move water off of the streets in the neighborhoods of the city of New Orleans, which pose dangers as well. We get a report from the Corps of Engineers because they maintain and help us operate those pumps. Last time I checked an email that I got from Colonel Jones, I believe that they've been able to refurbish or repair all of the pumps, and I believe they have them all online by the time that hurricane season started a couple of days ago. So again, I am as confident as we could be. Nothing is 100% in this game, but we continue to look around every corner. We continue to turn every leaf. We continue to turn every stone up to make sure that we are prepared, and we just continue to overlook our plans. But again, let me go back and turn this back. The best way that our plan works is if the citizens of this state are as prepared as we are. So again, if you heed the warnings that your local officials give you, if you prepare, get your evacuation plans in order, if you sign up for getagame-plan.org and you go through those lists to see what in those checklists are applicable to your conditions, whether it's a family, individual, seniors, your pets, whether you need special medication or not. We have gone through these checklists and built those checklists in order to help families and citizens prepare for when that emergency comes. So again, the best plan is the one that our citizens prepare and the ones that we're able to implement for them once they are prepared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just had the one,
Colonel
off-topic
Hodges, did we
question.
get a
One final question, that's it. Okay, Paul.
First, it's been more than 3 weeks since the escape at the Orleans Justice Center. 2 inmates are still at large. And this is for you or Colonel Hodges. Are you satisfied that everything is being done that can be done to find these escaped inmates? And number 2, what do you make of the video that was released yesterday from Antoine Massey trying to plead his case?
Well, look, first of all, I think it's important that the citizens in this state have an appreciation for the amount of hours and work that the men and women, both at the local, federal, and state level, have played in apprehending 8 of the 10 fugitives. These are 10 very dangerous people that 8 of them have now been brought back into custody. They did not leave that jail with the intent of being captured, right? So again, they are the 2 that are left out there, and the other 8 were all trying to evade law enforcement. I am extremely confident that the Louisiana State Police, in conjunction with our federal and local partners, are going to pick up the other 2 and hopefully shortly.
What
Hodges?
What'd you make of the video?
You know, if they were truly interested in helping us, they would have probably sided with the reward money instead of posting something on an online platform. All tips, all leads are investigated by law enforcement. As the governor already mentioned, local, state, and federal partners, we're all working seamlessly together. And obviously that did not prevail to be a lead that he was there. Regarding his innocence, everyone has the opportunity to go to court and to have their day, but you can't do it when you leave from being incarcerated and then now you're escaped. So I would just encourage everyone, as we've had before, if you have a tip or a lead, please reach out to Louisiana State Police Fusion Center, the FBI, the ATF, of course, our great partner, Crime Stoppers, who's provided many leads and help. It's $50,000 per capture for each of the remaining 2. And I would ask the public's help again No matter how confident we are in our investigation, things change in a moment's notice. And it's usually because someone has helped them. I believe we have 14 people at this time incarcerated for helping those escapees. We just asked to do the right thing for public safety, make the call to one of either state police, FBI, ATF, or our Crime Stoppers, provide us that lead. Don't get online and try to get clicks and shares on one of your platforms. Just contact law enforcement. You'll make your community safe. More importantly, we'll bring those 2 fugitives back to justice, and they will be brought back safely. Thank you.
Does that video aid in capturing Massey? Will it help?
Everything that is forwarded to us helps. We think sometimes, though, it's a distraction. We know it's entertainment for the public or it's interesting. I believe everybody in this room and everybody outside, for the most part, wants the same thing, to bring the 2 fugitives back so we can continue to have public safety across Louisiana. More importantly, those communities where they have family and friends who are producing the online information. But obviously, it's helpful if they were still there, but if they're not there, then it really doesn't help us bring them to capture. And to talk about charges, that's for a judge and a jury to decide when they have their day in court. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. That's it.
Let me just say this to follow that. There's no doubt, he's certainly not innocent for escaping out of jail, okay? And let's just start with that. If you want to plead your innocence, like Colonel Hodges says, there's a court of law that's designed to be able to do that. What I would urge is that those 2 quit the hide and seek game that we're playing, turn yourself in, and you'll be able to have your day in court. My hope is that we are able to, either they turn themselves in or we are able to safely pick them up without anyone being injured. So again, we ask the public to help us. We can close this out by finishing up with the rest of those 2 individuals. And I'm hopeful that we bring them to justice here swiftly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.